Today's hair is brought to you by a lot of hairspray and perspiration. Or should I say desperation? Hi everyone, my name is Charlie and today I am going to be talking about nothing in particular. It has been another fortnight since I last recorded a video. I'm finding that my schedule seems to be every fortnight I decide it's been too long since I last graced this platform with my presence. And quite honestly, it comes from this feeling of not wanting to overwhelm people with content, and I did put out quite a lot of videos over a fortnight then. Also, because I have ideas for content, but at the same time, there's this whole thing of waiting for the perfect time at home, you know, when there's less people here to be shouting their mouths off. Also, because I was wearing a certain hat whenever I didn't want to wash my hair. And this morning, I didn't want to wash my hair, but at the same time, I was looking mightily dishevelled, so I shaved, and so I can say that I actually got a war wound this morning when I cut my chin whilst shaving. You'd think that after 10 to 12 years of doing this, I would have learned how not to cut myself with a razor. But that's not the case. It still happens. It takes that long for facial hair to grow on me anyway. This is really going to be one of them videos, isn't it? Okay, so let's talk about my last fortnight. I think when last we spoke, I was talking about the difficulties of the charity shop now that we have reopened, and basically those have continued. We still aren't able to take donations and it's beginning to frustrate me a lot. Also, I have found, and this is a new thing to have happened since I spent 12 weeks at home during lockdown, we've reached this new stage whereby I hit about 2:30, 3 o'clock, and I am completely done with the great British public. From the hours of 9 o'clock until 3 o'clock, you will get a very attentive Charlie who is going to be supremely helpful. But from 3 o'clock, I reach this point where I feel overwhelmed, I feel stressed. There have been 2 times in the last week where I've just gone into the back room and said to whoever was there, can you just watch the shop for a minute? And I just had to go and stand in a corner and just re-acclimatise. It has happened at Congleton previously. I used to say I was going and hiding, but it was just a case of needing a breather and needing this space away from people. I think I'm very introverted naturally, and so when it comes to having to deal with people constantly, it does. Last Monday, the phone didn't stop ringing all day. Every 5 minutes there was another phone call with somebody wanting to donate, and I was having to say no every single time and having to explain myself every single time. And this constant script of having to say, I'm sorry, we're not taking donations, and then trying to say we're hoping to get it done by such and such a date, but we were hoping to get it done by last week and it hasn't happened yet. It wears me down. It's the same for many people at the moment. I'm not claiming like I'm going through something seriously unique. I'm aware of my privileges on a daily basis of having a job, still having a job after everything that's gone on, and not having caught a really deadly disease, touch wood. I'm just saying that it's very much easier for Charlie to get stressed at the moment, especially with what's going on with his hair. Everyone keeps coming to me and saying, you've got very long hair. Have you not been able to get into the hairdresser? I don't want to go back to a barber yet. I've had long hair before. I don't mind. I don't mind experimenting with hairspray and hair creams and gels and things. I do not mind, because whilst the hairdressers are open, even to me, I just don't want to risk it. They've got the visors on, they've got their aprons. We have 2 hairdressers across the road from the shop and I can see everything going on, and they're having a one in, one out system. I get it. They're getting the customers to wear masks and aprons. I get it, but they're not wearing gloves. And I'm not letting someone that close to me. I'm not risking it. So that's what's been going on with the shop. Mostly, people have been kind. We've had a few people who haven't been the nicest. I'm glad that I know so many of my customers. My customers know me. Someone was rather mean to me one day this week, and my customers immediately jumped to my defence. Of course, there's only 2 of them in the shop. One of them told this man off immediately and said, don't, about not being horrible to me. I'm just doing my job because I couldn't accept these donations. And another one used an expletive, and at the same time, I'm like, I really appreciate the support. And it makes me smile. But what if he thinks you work here and that gets back to head office? They'll see I'm the only staff member. In other news, I have not been reading as much as you'd expect a booktuber to read. I started reading The Bone Clocks on Tuesday, thinking that I would finish it and that I'd read the entire thing that day. And I read 100 pages. I loved this 100 pages. This working class girl called Holly Sykes who decides to run away from home to be with her older boyfriend. And there's this absurd mystical aspect that I expected from the 2 David Mitchell books that I've read. Something to do with horologists, them folk. I really enjoyed the first part. Then the second part, well, you know me, I am a bit of a snob and I hate reading about rich people doing rich people things. And the second part is all about a rich person doing rich person things. And there was fraud and manipulation in there. And so I slowed down reading that. I think that David Mitchell has managed to evoke the time periods really well, despite the fact that I was born in the 90s, so you'd think that I'd have more of a affinity to the portion of the book that was set in the 90s. The portion with Holly Sykes set in the 80s really felt like it was set there, and I really enjoyed that, and that's why I sped through it so quickly. I'm still enjoying the book, and so far I've enjoyed everything that I have read by David Mitchell. So hopefully I'm going to read another 100 pages today. Maybe I'll finish this book this week. I don't know. I also began a buddy read of The Master and Margarita with a commenter of ours, YouTube's, BookTube's Amelia Reads, and we're reading a chapter a day, only we keep falling behind. Amelia's in Germany, I'm in the UK, but we get home, well, sometimes I'll get home and I don't want to read or comment about it, so I'll send an apology message and then she's going through the same sort of thing, so we've fallen behind. But as we say, with a buddy read you can really just take your time. Yeah, so it's a very relaxed approach to this book. I'm enjoying it for the most part. Again, weird and absurd, and the devil's here, and so basically it was a book that was invented for Charlie. I did finish reading Pet by Akwaeke Emezi last week, and I thoroughly adore that book. It is a young adult novel following a trans character who releases a monster from her mother's painting, and monsters have been eradicated from the world in which she lives. The great thing about this book is that it reminded me of the good use of subtext that we'd have at uni, and the way that things could be said subliminally and the reader has to guess as to what happened, and I really appreciated that. I appreciated this idea that whilst we can hope for a utopia, that's never going to happen, and we shouldn't forget the past. We should allow it to inform our experiences, so these things shouldn't happen again, but also we shouldn't believe that those things are never going to happen, and we should always be prepared. Really adored Pet and would want to share it with all of the younger readers in my life. Hopefully I'll finish The Bone Clocks this week, and then I have no idea what I'll read next, quite honestly. Have a sip of tea, Charlie. In terms of writing, I have finally finished writing the 3rd chapter of the first part of the final Doris book. I am really, 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 really happy about that. I can't remember what day it was, but it doesn't matter. I reached this point where I realised that what I'd just written in 3 pages, I could reduce to a paragraph. And so I did that. It was as though I had figured out how to blend the style that I had for Our Doris, which was full of concision and brevity, and I brought that here, and I was removing the unimportant stuff straight away just to get to the end of the chapter. It felt like there was nothing unnecessary there, that all the information I needed to give was given. I do think that it isn't as funny as it could be, but I think I've changed my writing with every book. I think that I've changed from having punchline after punchline, and now I'm much more happy to allow time before the next joke if that means that the story benefits. And that's what happened here, and I am glad to have finished. I have started working on the second part, which is the 4th chapter. This is going to help me tie up a plot hole and a spelling error that I have had running throughout the entirety of this series. I had this idea before I wrote the book. I just didn't know how I was going to implement it. When I realised that I was going to write this book as 3 parts with 3 individual stories in each, I realised what this had to focus on, what these 3 stories would focus on within this part, and how I could tie it into the overall story. Hopefully, I finish the 1st chapter of the 2nd part before the end of July, and then I'll continue that. I'd like to have this book finished by the end of the year, I think. I think throw my April deadline out the window. I'm not bringing out this book this year. I know that. I'm not bringing out the other 2 books that I had planned for this year, not because of my lack of work, but because I simply don't have the resources there, and I don't like the idea of releasing a book and not being able to promote it, which is unfortunately what happened with An Heir to Murder. I did have someone ask me how my books have gone, and I told the tiniest white lie, in which I said that luckily people have been very supportive during lockdown, which people have been supportive, but I just meant that I lied and said I'd sold a lot of books because frankly, it's nobody else's business how much I've sold. You could head over to my website and you could purchase some Indisputably Doris Ahoy and An Heir to Murder, because I have tons of them under my bed. Now, if you've got this far, as we are about to celebrate 5 years for me on BookTube, I have decided that I am going to do a Facts About Me video. Now, what sort of facts would you like to know? Please feel free to ask anything. What fact would you like to know about Charlie? There are going to be a few. So far, I've come up with 2. My name and my age. Let's add my occupation. Sorted, I've got 3 facts already, but feel free to send in as many facts as you'd like to know about me, and I'll put them together in a video. Right, so since I might have probably bored you all to tears by now and you've beggared off to find out what the latest BookTube drama is, I am going to leave things here. I hope that you managed to stick around this long, that you found something you might have enjoyed, and until next time, that is all.